This week's guest, the first guest, is Laura Orleans, director of the New Bedford Fishing Heritage Center. Laura was the first guest on this program back in May, and since that time, she's been carrying out and planning a series of events that will help keep the center alive and open. Welcome, Laura.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
We have a couple of events to talk about right off the bat. They're happening on back-to-back days this coming week. The first is the Seafood Throwdown on July 27th. It's not a fundraiser, but it is a kind of a public awareness thing. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. So the Seafood Throwdown is a concept that was created by the Northwest Atlantic Marine Alliance, known as NAMA. And we started partnering with them back in 2009 as part of the Working Waterfront Festival. And it's really an effort to bring some awareness to the more abundant and less less known seafood that's out there. So it's basically, if you're, an Iron Chef fan, it's sort of like that. We have two chefs who are going to be arriving. They can bring 3 ingredients from their kitchens, and there's a secret seafood that will be unveiled right there on the spot. I can't, of course, disclose that. And then we give them $25 and 15 minutes, and they do a little shopping spree at the farmers market right at Custom House Square. They come back, and they have an hour to cook and plate and present their entry for the judges. And then, of course, there's a little bit of tasting so that we get people really excited about going out and getting seafood and cooking it at home.
And that's kind of what this is all about. I mean, it's an attempt to get more people to think about seafood as part of their weekly diet or whatever.
Absolutely.
And I guess it's also about promoting seafood in general and the Port of New Bedford.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you said that. This particular Seafood Throwdown is especially exciting because the city is launching a branding campaign. Now, I think there was such a campaign going on back in the 60s for scallops, back when nobody would eat scallops. Can you imagine? But nowadays, we want to make sure that people know where their seafood is coming from. So if they order it in Colorado or Kansas or, Boston, we want that seafood to say New Bedford seafood, whatever it is, whether it's, scallops or haddock or flounder or redfish or who knows what. So the Harbor Development Commission has been working with some grant funding from, I believe, the Mass Division of Marine Fisheries to launch this branding campaign, and this is the launch event. So we're very excited to be part of that.
Have you seen that?
I've seen the logo, and it's beautiful. Okay. Yeah.
We'll trust your judgment on that. Well, it should be fun. This is an outdoor event at the Custom House Square, is that right?
It is. So right in the heart of downtown, and it's free and open to the public. It begins at 5:30 sharp. So you want to get there and kind of watch that secret seafood be unveiled, because the fun of it is that these chefs have to think on their feet. And we've got Joe Rigo, who many people will know as a winner on the Chopped television show. He now has just recently opened Cask and Pig, which is not a seafood restaurant, but we know he can handle the fish. And then Ed Rozak, who is from the How on Earth restaurant in Marion, and they specialize in locally sourced food. So they're, a very appropriate kitchen to be doing this event.
And there will be judges.
There will be judges. We have Diane Nanfelt, who is one of the owners of Kyler Seafood, and they're actually donating the fish, so we really appreciate that. We have Wendy Maynardi, who is from the Mass Division of Marine Fisheries Seafood Marketing Program. We have... Who else do we have as judges? We have Dan Medeiros of the Herald News. He's a contributor to the Dine Out column, which appears in the Standard Times. And then Chef Chris Cronin, who actually has won the Seafood Throwdown twice. He won last year and at the 2015 Throwdown at the festival. And he is the executive chef at Farm and Coast Market in Paden Aram.
Is there an admission for this?
No, it is free of charge, and you can hopefully the seafood will hold out and people can get in line for just a little taste. We're going to whet your appetite, because then the next night we've got something else.
Right. The next night, the 28th, it's a fish fry fundraiser. This is a fundraiser to benefit the Fishing Heritage Center, taking place at the Cotali Mar in the North End. Sounds like a very special night.
It'll be really a lot of fun. So it runs from 6 to 9 p.m. We have very modest ticket prices. It's $35 for adults and $15 for children. For that, you get Cotali Mar's famous clam cakes. You get some chowder that's being donated by Blount Seafood, and you get a basket of fresh fish and chips. And that fish is all being donated by Burgess Seafood, which is a local processing house. We'll have, of course, music, and that's being provided by a jazz duo called Jason Smith and Felix Rentschler. They're local folks, and they'll be doing standards and some gypsy-style jazz music. And then your own Phil Paleologos is going to be our auctioneer, and we've got some really cool items, I think. Some one-of-a-kind priceless things like you can go out lobstering with a real lobsterman, have a little lobster roll picnic as part of that. And where else can you get that opportunity?
All fishing-related items.
Mostly all fishing-related items. But, some fun stuff. A night out on the town, a day at Plymouth Plantation, Red Sox tickets, and they're doing pretty well this year, so that should be popular.
How can people get tickets to this event?
Sure. So what I would suggest is give a call to the Fishing Heritage Center. You can certainly stop in, and we're open Thursday through Sunday from 10 until 4. We're located on Bethel Street, number 38 Bethel Street. So you can stop in and purchase them at the door. If that's not possible for you, give us a call, 508-993-8894, and we'd be happy to set aside a couple of tickets for you. You will be able to purchase them at the door, but it would be very helpful to us to have a sense as to how many people are going to be attending. And then they are available to be purchased online, and you can do that through our website, which is fishingheritagecenter.org, and just click on the Programs tab under Special Events.
You're listening to Townsquare Sunday. My guest is Laura Orleans of the New Bedford Fishing Heritage Center. Now, a little further into the summer, there's going to be the special debut of a film that you and I talked about off the air. It's a film about fishing in New Bedford and Fairhaven, is that right?
Absolutely, and it's really a kind of a historical look back. I'm super excited about this. We've been working with Kevin Kircher at Big Ocean Media, who's a local filmmaker, but really got his start working with Ken Burns. So for people that love that baseball series and the Civil War series, it's done a little bit in that style. So we did interview 6 folks. 5 of them are in the fishing industry, and then Joe Thomas from Spinner kind of served as our anchor, our historian. But it looks back at fishing really from the 50s. We go all the way back to Dan Mullins and Linus Eldridge and those guys, but for most of the people that we interviewed, they began their careers in the 50s, and some of them are still fishing today. So it looks at just what that was like, how it's changed over time. We've got a lot of old footage and photographs that were provided to us by people in the fishing community. And then, so the film runs 20 minutes, and it was designed really to be an orientation for the Fishing Heritage Center and get people excited about coming to learn more. But we've also created 10 bonus tracks, if you will. Mm-hmm. So things that we couldn't fit into that 20-minute block. We've got a wonderful section with Paul Doucette, whose father was Louis Doucette. And Paul talks about the funny guy with the curly tail. And if you're in the industry, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's a word that we can't say. We've got Celeste Vieira, whose father fished. She's well into her 80s. So her father was fishing, and she was his translator going down to Fulton's Fish Market long, long ago. So there's wonderful clips from her. We've got Rodney Avila, who's, I think, 6 generations of fishing family. We've got Radar Bendixson, who fished for 30 years and then went ashore to start building gear. And then Jimmy Dwyer, who has been a lumper all of his life and was the union agent for the Lumpers Union for many, many years.
Does this film have a name?
Yes, it does. And in fact, I'm excited about the name, too. The film is called Finest Kind, the New Bedford Fishing Industry. And again, for people from the local community or people in any fishing community in New England, that term, Finest Kind, is something that probably will resonate. I hope so. And basically, it means the best. And so I think it's a very appropriate title because we feel like those men and women who are involved in the industry are the best. And so it's a very heartwarming film. I think people will really love it. And part of what we feel like it does very well is to give people a sense of what it is like out there. And it can be beautiful, but it can also be pretty dangerous and a little frightening. So there's some great footage from fishermen of those big waves and some amazing stills. And there's one point in the film where I get a little seasick. So I'll let you know when that is, and you can just close your eyes for that brief moment. So that premiere is going to take place at Greasy Luck, which, if you haven't been, it's a wonderful new venue up on Purchase Street, brew pub, and they've got a beautiful section of that venue that has seating for about 200 people. They have a projector and a screen, and of course you can buy libations of your choice, so you can purchase some beer and have a little dinner. We're going to open the doors at 6 p.m., and this is Sunday, August 13th. So 6 p.m. the doors will open. We'll begin the film at 7 with some speaking remarks ahead of that, and then all 6 of the people who are in the film and the filmmaker will participate in a little Q&A after we show the film.
Great. So, Greasy Luck on August
13th.
August 13th, Sunday. And the fun starts, doors open at 6. So,
and that's that's a free event as well. We will have DVDs available for purchase if people want to take it home with them.
Okay. I think you ought to have that film show at the center.
It will. So it will show on a regular basis, both at the center, also at the visitor center downtown, probably once a day, at the waterfront visitor center down on the waterfront, and possibly, I'm hoping, on the fast ferries, so that people coming from Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard, as they're coming over, will get excited about the possibility of coming to see. Exactly.
All right.
And we'll make it available. I should also say we had some grant funding to support this, and we'll make the film available to local libraries and schools. So it'll be circulated pretty widely.
Great. Last time you were here, back in May, you were talking to us about the oral history project that you were doing, the center was doing, with the Library of Congress. Is that pretty well completed?
Yes. As of Tuesday next week, we will have uploaded everything to the Library of Congress. Of course, we are retaining copies of all of the transcripts and audio files and photographs, and they'll be the foundational material for many exhibits to come. But we've done 58 interviews with every imaginable person who works on the shore. So marine divers, marine electronics people, people who make and design nets, people who cut fish, people who do welding. I mean, pretty much every aspect. I've learned so much through doing this project, and I have gained, I already had a huge respect for the industry, but just gained a huge amount of insight into the resourcefulness, the intelligence, the work ethic, and just so many aspects, and also just many of the businesses that we talk to are family businesses, and the culture within those businesses, even people who are employed there who are not part of the family, said, I feel like I'm part of the family. So you talk to like R.A. Mitchell, and I got to interview 2 of the folks who repair and maintain engines and generators. They've each worked there for 30 years, and they said, we feel like we're part of the Mitchell family. So it was just a really wonderful look into how people learn their skills, what they do, the challenges that they have, what a typical day is like, which there is no such thing, apparently. And so we're really excited about that. So each of the interviews, 44 of them have been fully transcribed. We did about 13 interviews in Spanish with Spanish-speaking workers, and those are being sort of partially transcribed. Full transcripts are pretty onerous for those. But I'm excited that'll, as I said, we'll be creating exhibits and curriculum materials and programs and things for years to come based off of that.
And the Library of Congress, they can be called up at any time?
Yes. So I don't exactly know the details. We'll put out a press release once they're publicly available on the library's website, but there will be, a searchable database, and people will be able to read the interview, listen to the interview, look at the photographs. Phil Mello, who happens to be my board chairman and just a prince of a guy, stellar photographer, has been the photographer on the project, and so he's taken these gorgeous portraits of people at their jobs, both sort of in the old style with the black and white sepia tones, and then also color photographs.
And just when you think you've heard it all about history of the fishing industry by this film and your work with the oral history, you're working on another project now.
We are. So when I first came into the community, I started to hear about the bitter strike of 1985-86, and I was curious, and I tried to ask questions, and people were pretty unwilling to talk at that point.
Tight-lipped.
It was a very difficult time, but also a real watershed moment. And so with some distance of time, now 30 plus years ago is when that history happened, people seem to want to share it and want to make sure that the story gets told. And so we are doing yet another project. We will be doing probably 60 interviews all told with lawyers, union reps, workers, journalists, everybody that we can think of that might have a perspective on not just that strike, but some of the other labor actions that happened earlier. There was a strike in 1981. I believe there was one in the 70s, one in the late 60s. And just to kind of get a sense of how unions were formed, what their role was, how things have changed, what all this means going forward. And it's a very, very interesting time in our own history as a country to be doing this sort of a project. So I'm very excited about that. We have a team of scholars actually from all over the East Coast who are helping to work on that. And that'll probably wrap up in about a year's time. And the hope is that eventually that will form the basis for a significant exhibit down the road, but also we have a teacher who's working on some curriculum materials, so there will be high school curriculum pieces that'll be available free of charge. Mm-hmm.
That'll be wonderful. I think in 85, 86, that strike was a kind of a bellwether. It signaled a demise in labor unions, not only on the waterfront, but I think throughout New Bedford, that's when it kind of started.
And also nationally.
Yeah.
You know, if you think about it, that was
that's right, Reagan years.
The aviators strike.
Right.
Yeah. Or not, yes. The
air controllers.
Air controllers, sorry. Yes, exactly. So we're excited about that, and we were very fortunate to get funding from the National Endowment for the Humanities and Massachusetts Humanities as well. So it'll be good.
Laura, one more time for the two upcoming events, when, where, and
Sure. So
tickets.
It all begins Thursday of next week. That's July 27th at 5:30 p.m. in Custom House Square, and that's the Seafood Throwdown. So all you foodies, come on out, get a little taste of some fresh local seafood, learn about a fish species you might not know about. It'll be a lot of fun. It'll run until about 7 p.m. right in Custom House Square, downtown New Bedford, free of charge. And then the following evening, July 28th, at Kotalimar Restaurant, which is located on the boulevard just north of Coggeshall Avenue. They have a wonderful parking lot right around back, and we didn't say we're taking over the patio area, so as long as the weather gods smile, we'll be outdoors. It's a lovely setting. If there is rain, they've reserved a banquet hall for us, and so that starts at 6, runs till 9, and tickets are available both at the Fishing Heritage Center at the door and online.
Laura Orleans, thanks for coming and joining us today, Laura.
Thank you so much for having me.
You keep this up, you'll be a regular here.
Happy to do it.
Townsquare Sunday will return in just a moment.